red. It's the it's on that one. I see. So whichever one's red. That's the
does
one.
it let you know?
Yeah.
Oh.
Press another
I was going
one.
to mess with you and just have it face me the whole time. So
Press another one.
let's see.
See?
Oh, yeah, it's red.
Yeah, whichever one you
Dang,
press.
so you can't be creepy on these things.
Well, you could. If somebody's not paying attention, but
So if we just rapidly keep changing.
That's going to be fucking annoying.
Yeah, so
Don't do that.
it's on you. But you already
As
know
well
that.
it should be.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. We know who the star of the show is. So you said you had a question for me.
I do. Do you want me to ask that question?
I
'Cause
do.
We had a different talk about it the other day. But I've actually been thinking a lot about that question. So, all right, I'm going to ask the question.
Do you want to answer your own question? Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is I have follow-ups to that.
Oh, let's do it. Yeah,
because the context to how I heard the question. Okay, so what's the question? So, spoiler alert, I wanted to kick off today's podcast by surprising Todd with the question that some of you may have heard because I've heard different people do a version of the question. But then he and I had a conversation the other day, and it was kind of
Topical.
topical to what we were talking about. So I just asked the question then. But the question was, if I gave you, I think I said $1 million. Right?
Started at $1 million, you escalated.
Yeah. If I gave you $1 million right now, what would you say?
Thank you. I would say thank you.
Nothing else. That's it. You inconsiderate little.
How is that? What else? What would you like to
I
say?
don't know.
I'm so grateful, Chris.
But okay. So, but there's a catch. So I hand you $1 million right now. You're happy for a minute, and I'm like, but there's a catch. You decide if you want to keep it. I don't think that messed with the lighting at all. We're obviously figuring out how to do this with cameras here, so bear with us. But the catch is that you don't get to go hunting. You don't get to go into the mountains and do photography anymore. But you got $1 million. And you were very quick to say, nope, wouldn't take it.
No, I'm not saying I'm not taking the money.
So I quickly went, okay, $10 million.
No.
And you still said no.
No.
And you're sure? Like I'm holding $10 million and I'm handing it to you.
Yeah.
You're certain.
I mean, listen, am I confident in that answer sitting here right now? Yes, I'm confident in that answer. Could there be a difference if you actually have $10 million in front of me? Of course I might think about things differently, but I don't think so because what's all this, like, I've never, okay, how do I say this? Money has never been the first thing that's driven my decisions. Do I like money? Do I want to make money? Does it allow me to do the things that I want to do? Absolutely. But it is never the first reason that I make a decision. And so for me to completely remove all of the things that I enjoy from my life just for money, I don't think I would do it.
Because what would you do with the money then? Right?
None of the things that I want to do. Right?
You'd probably find some cool new hobbies.
I'm sure I would because I just typically figure out I'm just a curious person, but
with 10 mil.
I don't know, man.
But here's the context of how it's the way that I heard it was it's actually used as a sales question. So
okay.
If I give you $1 million, how would you feel? Be very thankful, whatever, right? And then, all right, well, I have to let you know there's a catch. You don't get to wake up tomorrow. Would you take it? And it's like, of course, no one would take that, right? Maybe someone would.
Unless you just want to have a really crazy 12 hours.
Maybe someone would. They're like, I actually have terminal cancer, and I'm told that I don't have, it could help my family, whatever. But when I hear it, I'm like, that's such a stupid question. Because then they'll be like, so you're telling me that your life is worth more than $1 million. And in some regard, I'm like, well, no, they just won't have an opportunity to do anything
enjoy
with
the
$1 million because
yeah.
they don't get to wake up tomorrow. And so where I was saying I've thought more about the question is what if I gave you $10 million and the catch was took 5 years off your life? Would you take it? 10 years? 15 years? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying for you. I mean, sure, go ahead. You can riff on it, but I hate that question as this. Because the way that they use it in sales is they'll go the thing that I had heard was we've already established then that your life is worth more than $1 million, and yet you won't invest X $100 a month in and I'm like, that's the worst.
Man, if someone put that shit at my feet, I'd be like, fuck you, I'm out of here.
It's so stupid.
I'm done.
But I still think I don't know if I would say there's value in the question, but I'm interested in.
There are some value.
What?
Finding out what you really value. Would you change? You know,
yeah. But the life one, right? Like, because I think there's like your hobbies and whatever, but your life, would you take at whatever number makes sense? Because I think there's a number where a lot of people will be
So,
like, yeah, but like 10 million, 5 years less, 5 years off your life.
So I think so. The way that I think about this logically is that money is a tool for potential, right? And so you're trading potential for potential there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Elaborate.
Like you're trading the potential of having those 5 years for the potential of being able to use a tool now is essentially the trade that you're making, right? You're trading potential for potential. And the way that you could logically think about it is that, okay, well, the last 5 years of someone's life are typically kind of rough, right? Like,
What if you don't know that? Like, this is messed up. So I'm gonna fully own that. What if through this process, after you're like, yeah, I'll take the 5 years less off my life, they're like, you're gonna die 5 years and 1 day from now.
yeah, that would suck. Yeah, no.
But I wasn't thinking of it that way. So
But you're trading potential for potential. And so you could sit there and logically say, you know, I could enjoy that $10 million now. And I think my death counter says I have 47 years left. So instead of 47, I'd have 42. And you could make that bargain if you really want to. I don't know. Like, there's a couple things. Like, first, man, I've been really poor before, you know, and I've figured out how to enjoy my life
and had great times
and being really fucking poor. And so, would I like to have $10 million in the bank? Of course I would. Like, but it's not going to change. It would change some of my access, but I don't know how much. And of course, it would influence my behavior in some ways. But like, it's just a tool for potential. And so if I look at that and say, well, I also have a core value defined for my life, which is to pay my rent and which is to do the most interesting possible. Covered forever. Yeah. But that means to like do the most interesting things I can with my life and like talk about them, you know? And so I don't know, man, like those last 5 years of my life could be the most valuable years of my life. And so I don't feel like I'm willing to trade $10 million to take years off my life. I don't think that that's a fair trade in my eyes. And I say that now, looking at you without a $10 million, without $10 million in front of my face.
But to your point, I don't know if I want to say to your point, but take it a little step further in terms of unpacking it. You talked about being at points in your life where you were very poor.
Yeah.
And yourself very poor, reflecting on places that you've been and amounts of money that you've made at varying times in the businesses that we've had.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's nowhere near $10 million, folks, but in some ways, super poor Todd would maybe look at that and be like, oh my God, my life would be completely different with that money.
And it was.
And it was.
From poor Todd to not poor Todd.
But is it the... is it... Oh man, how do I want to phrase this question? Do you almost get used to that?
Oh, I think you habituate to, yes.
And so if you took the $10 million, how long would it take you to, perfect word, to habituate to like within
I don't think it would take long.
a pretty short time frame? I just think you'd be like,
and
damn, I gave up
like,
5 years.
That $10 million could be gone so fast.
Yeah.
It could, you know, and I don't know. I just don't think it's a trade that I would want to make. Like if I really sat down and thought about it, you know, because I don't know, like life and time are sincerely the most valuable things. And that's not like a cheesy, corny thing. Like I'm sitting here doing all of these things to make sure that I can enjoy my life for as long as I possibly can, you know? And so that's like, I didn't take high stress financial jobs or do something like that. I created my own life where I could essentially work out as much as I want. I work on things that I enjoy. I work with people that I enjoy being around. And I did all of those things to like facilitate my life now, but you know, as I get older to also facilitate my life as I get older and be able to remain healthy. And so to sit there and say that is the taking money like that is more valuable than having those last 5 years that could potentially be incredible. Like, and say like cutting myself off from the potential experiences that I could have. You know, I'm also arrogant enough to think that I could have $10 million in the bank by then. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's actually arrogant.
I was gonna say, I don't think
that's not arrogant. That's like, but I don't. I think it's a. I think what that question does, if you wanted to use it in an exploratory manner, is like if you ask someone to figure out how well you align with them and how well they have their own values figured out based on their answer. You know, I think it works well in that regard. Or just to say like, I think how, you know, trying to illustrate your life, you're actually doing the things that you want to do.
Yeah, I think the without going into the specifics of it, the context of how you and I had the conversation is I think that it can help someone to also like value where they are even more. Like when it's so easy sometimes, like there's the whole idea of, is it Benjamin Hardy, his book, The Gap and the Gain. But you understand the premise of The Gap and the Gain. Like, even if you're like enlighten me as soon as I say it, you'll be like, we're always focused on the gap of where we are and where we want to be.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. And it's so easy, and yet so few of us do it, to turn around and look at all the gain that we've made. Right.
Sure.
And that's kind of going back to like poor Todd would go ape shit to have what current Todd has.
Oh, dude.
But current Todd, and I'm not saying that you are focused on $10 million, because this was purely a thought experiment.
Sure.
But running with that thought experiment,
Oh yeah.
current Todd could look at that gap and feel the same way that poor Todd did. Or like, and I know that you don't do this, but like comparing people that compare themselves, it's like, I think it's Naval has the quote about like, it's either him or Charlie Munger maybe, but like the quote about like the path to happiness is it's something about like not contentment, but like being happy with what you have and like minimizing wants.
Yeah, that's like the entire premise of Buddhism.
Yeah.
Like that's how the whole thing. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought.
Camera's on you now though. So.
It is. It is. Yeah. Well, fuck, dude. It was good too. It was good.
Well, I have to trust you on that.
Yeah. What were you saying? Go back and say what you were saying again. Maybe the gap.
The gap.
Well, no, I know what I was going to say. But it was never even. So I grew up super poor. Like, and I remember saying too, you know, I was just with Peter Clark in Idaho, and we were hunting elk. And, you know, I grew up hunting as a kid, and I never thought doing what I do now all the time was a possibility. Like, I didn't realize it was something I'd be able to do. So, but even like looking at
how so? What do you mean? How so?
Oh, I never thought I'd be able. Like, we were poor. I never thought traveling across the country to be able to hunt and stuff like that would be a possibility. But I look at like why I made the decisions and the things that I've done to make money and why I've wanted money. And I know there's some people that just want it for money's sake, and I'm not going to judge them. It's like, sure, man. Like if that's the game that you want to play, do it. But like for me, it's always been, well, what can I do with it? I always want to do something. Like I want it to be able to use it as a tool, not just to stack a bunch of zeros in my bank account, which is nice for safeguarding. But like, I don't know. It's never just been about the money. So to sit there and say, I got to make a trade of money for my life. Like I've already made that decision, right? Because if you look at my career path, I could have made a choice that traded life for money, and I didn't do that. Yeah. So it's like, why would I make that decision in a different context? It doesn't make sense.
But I think the shyster sales approach of it, like we cringe at that, and I wouldn't take it to that level. But we go back to, I forget what you said, like you can be good for someone to like use it as like a reflection tool or whatever. But I think for someone like not taking it to but yet you won't invest X $100 a month in your health or whatever. Stupid. But the whole like, okay, even if it's not the next day, because who would?
You left the plastic on the cameras.
No, I know. Just this one. Both, actually all of them. But this one I tried to take it off, and then I realized it was stuck to the tripod. And I was like, well, that's not coming off right now. But obviously, you know, like we joke around, outside of someone with like a terminal illness, no one would say yes to the next day. But to keep walking that out, okay, 2 days from now, 3 days from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. And like, I don't know how far someone would go. It might be awkward because that person's like, 6 months, done, I'm in. And you're like, what?
I actually don't have $1 million. This was just
but it would be, that's where I think it would be an interesting reflection tool for someone who maybe is struggling in whatever context, but like,
I think just generally struggling.
Yeah.
They don't have things well defined enough for themselves
to realize
that's why they would answer that question that way.
You would, well, I'm not saying the person that would say yes to 6 months, but someone that's in a period where they're genuinely struggling, to keep walking that out and realize that even in this position, you probably wouldn't give up 5 years. Like you wouldn't 5 years, like, all right, you're not going to die tomorrow. You're going to die 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And most people are probably going to walk that out really, really far, to a point where they're like, I don't even know if I'll live that long. Or maybe at that point, my quality of, like, they're thinking of like other things that would be lost, that would be nothing that would impact their current state. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't want to lose anything they currently have. And then you have this like, so you really value what you have right now, but there's a gain. And then I don't know where to go from there, but like, I wouldn't want to do a shiesty sales thing with it.
I don't think it's used. I think that's, I don't know how does it work?
I don't even remember where I heard that, to be completely honest with you. Don't know.
It
might have been, you know what it might have been? It might have been a reel. You know, where people like put something talking over a reel and then they're showing like beautiful imagery or something. Yeah. It might have been something like that.
I can promise you that if I was in some kind of a sales consultation and someone said that to me, I would get angry and I would leave.
I am so resistant. I think because I've studied sales enough to realize, I actually do not like most sales tactics. And I would go so far as to say, of course, there's like a sales component, like we have a gym, but like we really have, like, the way our website's written, though, like, we want to work with people who want to be here. And I realize probably a lot of business consultants would come in and be like, no, you got to break that. Like, people do need convinced and whatever.
But what's the goal, right? Like,
yeah.
You know?
But because I've studied so much, I've been in different things. Like, what I hate, and I realized, like, we had this conversation with Paul Linkso at one point where I'm like, I will realize, like, what you're doing, like certain sales tactics that they've used where it's like, you know, it's this today, but if you're not doing it today, tomorrow it's that. And I'm like, that would literally make me just be like, no, I'm good. I hate those kind of things. I don't know why. But when I find myself in those situations, I think part of me is like, I want to test you, because you're sitting here as the sales guy, and like, say it's like a business coaching thing. Cause it was Loud Rumor. I don't know if you remember when they were one of the companies we were looking at way back on, like, doing some consulting work with. And they did that. I don't remember the exact specifics, but this kid, I say kid because he was young, and he took me through this whole pitch. And at the end, he like tried to do a value stack, and then he was like, so it's this, but only if you commit today. And I was like, man, I kicked this call off saying that I wasn't committing to anything today. So for you to do that,
you weren't listening to me.
Well, you weren't listening, but also like, now you just knowingly put something in front of me that is a better deal than what I'll ever be able to get. Why? Like, what? You know, and I gave him pushback like that. I'm like, I told you I wasn't signing up today. And he's like, well, why? Like, do you need to speak to someone? Like, what's, and he tried to do all like overcome all the objections. And I just got to a point where I was like, no, like, I actually don't think that I'll work with your company at all because of this. And it's one of those things where they're like, you know, this call is being recorded, like, whenever you're kicking it off. And I was followed up with by them, apologized to, and essentially they let me know that person was let go and whatever. But I was like, still, like, he didn't make that up.
No.
You know what I mean? He may have flubbed on, like,
had the delivery.
Yeah, but like, you guys are still running high pressure stuff like this, and I've listened to your podcast, and like, I don't know, when it gets into I even Hormozy's work, like when he gets into overcoming objections, and like, there's a lot of stuff that
I'm of course I'm going to say this, and you're not going to be surprised because you know me. I'm already over him. Like there's too many Hormozyites and all this shit. It's like I'm already over it. It's like does he have some good things to say and some good things to teach? Sure, but it's just like, okay, now everybody's gonna fucking do that, and that's just what it's gonna be. And it's like, what do you want? How do you want to do things? Like, yes, do you need to understand like basics of human psychology and meeting people where they're at and what they want and all those kind of things and helping them meet a need? Of course, but it's like, just don't become a clone because this guy's going to be a billionaire. Like, that's stupid.
And also, it's like he says, people like to talk about, and it's not just him that says this, but people like to talk about the routines of billionaires.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about like what actually got them there. But
you know what's funny about that? I don't know if you remember years ago, and obviously I'm fucking nobody, but I remember years ago when everybody was really starting to get on Tim Ferriss's dick, and I was like, yeah, he sells you the 4-hour work week, but he skims over the part in the book where he works 16 hours a day to get his business started. Like, he just
I don't know if he skims over. Yeah.
There's not a, you know what I mean? It's like, like, there's this, you can't skip that step.
I think it's more so, there's a lot of stuff. He didn't want to title that book, not to go down a whole rabbit hole, but he didn't want to title that book The 4-Hour Work Week. It was originally something titled about like how to make money selling drugs online or something like that, because it was about supplements,
which is cooler.
Which is fantastic.
I probably would have.
But the point about Hormozy with like the whole like routines is he's like, you have to look at what they did to get there, and okay. But when I look at like, and again, I'm not here to like attack Hormozy or anything. We've learned a ton from him. But when you look at like, cool, like, what are you after? And like, exactly. I'm sure he's happy. Him and his wife are happy, and like they're having fun pursuing what they're pursuing. But like, it's where you and I constantly talk about like, well, sure, we could sit here and be like, all right, we're going to build the businesses to this, we're going to do that. But like, we're constantly like, well, hold up, how will that affect lifestyle? Yeah. Will we be doing the things that we want to do every day? And when I hear, it's not just him, when I hear a lot of people in those worlds be like, no, I just want to build. I can't imagine having a kid, or I can't imagine like they
our value systems are completely different.
And if you there's a really good book, I think it's called The Good Life, and it's from the longest research study following people and then following their kids, and now I think their kids' kids. It was out of Harvard. Like JFK was in the study. There's a lot of people that have gone on to become pretty famous that were in the study.
His son's dead, so
or JFK Jr., I guess I should say. John F. Kennedy Jr. was in the study. No, I know that, but I'm saying John F. Kennedy Jr. was in the study. But and when you go through and like in that, I mean, the book is extensive, and I'm maybe 3/4 of the way through, but in a lot of books about more the philosophical, like what do people want and what are like regrets they have at the end of their life. It's usually about not spending enough time with people that they love, doing things that they love, and being too focused on work. And it's like amassing, and again, I'm not trying to put like, but we started this off with this whole thought experiment of $10 million. So I guess it does make sense to kind of, for myself, and I think true for you as well, to pick on that of like, I'm not just trying to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if we build things that generate whatever ridiculous amounts of money, but still allow for the lifestyles we want for ourselves and with our families and everything else, cool. But I wouldn't sacrifice any of that stuff to have the money.
That's like, and like all these personalities like that are popping up. You know, there's like Hormozy and Cody Sanchez and
Gary Vee was the original.
Gary Vee was and Gary Vee annoyed me very quickly. Yeah. And I was just kind of done, you know. But it's like they just annoy me because it's like all like I think she said she made a post one time. I followed her for a hot second after she was on Chris Williamson's podcast.
Oh, Cody.
Yeah. And I was like, so, and then she made a post like, I'm going to bully you into picking a partner, doing this, doing that, doing that. I was like, you're not going to bully me into shit. Like, I'm going to do what the fuck I want. You know what I mean? It's like, and all of like, and I think it sucks because I think obviously I'm not her audience, and she's speaking to,
I think
younger folks that have, are trying to find their direction and want to be successful in business. And that's great. That's wonderful. But it's like, I think where you have to stop and check is like, are these actually my values? Why am I doing this?
The people that she speaks to, and that a lot of these, I mean, she is successful. So take what I'm about to say is it's not all that she is, but a lot of these like influencers, but I mean highly accomplished people who are now influencing other people to build these lifestyles, her audience isn't just younger, it could be older, but where I listen to it and I'm like, this doesn't help us, is that it's for people who lack passion. Like, we have things that we want to build because we're passionate about those things. Like the whole, like, kind of the creator approach. I actually ordered a book today because Nick Bear mentioned it in his story, where I was like, all right, like, I think I know what it's going to say, but now I'm interested to read it. Don't remember what it was called. But essentially, he was like, someone recommended this book. I'm only 20 pages into it. It's absolutely awesome. And it's exactly how I built my companies. And the book's called Show Your Work. And he's like, essentially, what I gathered from what he was saying really quick on his story is it's about like going after things that you're interested in and documenting the process and sharing that, which in some ways that's what Hormozy's doing, because his whole thing of like, I wish that Jeff Bezos and Charlie Munger and everyone like documented from beginning to becoming billionaires and just showed everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. And that's what he's trying to do. But, so maybe there's something there, but
there's always an end to that though.
But like the Cody Sanchez stuff of like open a laundromat or store, and I don't know what, storage units or whatever.
All of these
but it's like
easy businesses that are kind of turnkey.
I mean, easy is
she says buy a business.
Yeah. Buy an existing business. But I'm like, I like to build things, so it's not our audience. We're not her audience.
No. And it's like, it comes back down to like, and listen, if you're into that, there's nothing, I just hate the more, all right. So I guess maybe I need to temper this because I try to have,
let it rip.
No, I mean, I'm not going to hold back with what my opinion is, but like, we have not super well produced content, but like, it looks good because we have nice cameras and we do stuff like that. But like, the more like well produced an online personality is, and like the more curated it is, the less I fucking trust it. You know what I mean? I have a hard time with that. It's not because it's not my personality, and just like it's seeing all of that, and it just doesn't work for me. It's just not me, man.
I'm thinking about it. I don't know.
And I'm not projecting that out. I'm saying that's for me.
Well, I think Diary of a CEO, super well produced, and even though some of the guests he has on, I'm like, this person's an idiot. Why is he interviewing them?
But he's like, but I don't see him that way.
He's super. Well, I would say he's super accomplished, and he's just genuinely. He's more like, I would say, like a Joe Rogan than. And same thing with Chris Williamson.
Even like his on like any of his content that I see online, like I'm talking about these very quippy, well produced, like 60-second, like, you know what I mean, soundbite type, like real type shit. Like that's the shit I don't trust.
Yes, where it's like a real quick, like the words are flying over, and
it's like there's no context.
40-second
it's
snippet.
Like there's no context, and I don't know. I think you were sick when the last or second to last. When we had Gym Systems folks here when we were still doing the business coaching, you might have been sick.
I was at home on the couch with COVID.
Yeah, that's right. And so I forget exactly what my presentation was about, but there's this song, I don't even remember the name of the song by, and I don't even remember the band. It'll come to me.
This is going really well.
It'll come to me at some point. But the one line is like, I just want my kids to play in the creek. And like, when it comes down to like the value system and stuff, like there's like, you can take that and layer on top of that an entire value system of what you want and where you want to be and all those kind of things. And I played that song in the background while I did the presentation, and just kind of I think it was mostly about that. It's like essentially probing them to decide, and really get back in touch with like, why do you have a business? Why are you doing this? And like, I just want my kids to play in the creek. Like, I just want to have that kind of set that kind of life up, And so I think that's where people, especially with the comparison on social media and the things that they see, is like, we were lucky enough. And I know people in our generation get fucked up by this, but like, I was lucky enough to grow up in rural Pennsylvania before all of this shit happened, and like establish things that you like and that aren't influenced by this. And I'm more influenced. I remember just back when we were more in the thick of things about with the fitness industry, when I started to check out of that, and I just realized like, these people don't have anything to value other than what other people in this industry think of them. And it's like, I got friends, and it's like, I'm done with this circle jerk. And I think that that's where it's getting worse, where it's like, they see a Cody Sanchez, they see a Hormozy, and they're like, well, I'm not that. I need to be like that. I want to do that. And it's like, do you? And maybe you do. And maybe that's fine. But there's like 4 of them.
Yeah.
And you got to really decide if you're really one of those 4 people, you know?
What did you just say? You saying something about Central PA and being glad you got out of that or something.
Oh, I'm just glad we grew up with all of that before this happened.
Oh, yeah. Like, ooh.
Stuff some mics, bro.
I don't know why. There's been multiple times, and as someone who does this more often than I would like to, but I remember the very first time, and Jess and I have talked about it, but that I saw a couple at a table.
Oh, just looking at their cell
on
phones.
Smartphones.
Yeah.
And I was in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania at like Bethlehem Brew Works or Steelworks or whatever it's called, this brewery restaurant. And I remember going there, and I was there with my girlfriend at the time, and like just like catty corner to us was this table. And like it was the first time, I'm not saying it was the first time I saw a smartphone, but it was the first time that I ever noticed 2 people sitting together at a table in a room full of people who no one's distracted by a phone. And think about it, that's not that long ago. That must have been 2010 to 2000. Because of who it was, it had to be like 2009, 2010.
They just started in 2007. That was the first iPhone.
And these 2 people sat there in an awesome environment with great food and some drinks, and we're both like, just scroll. And like, I don't even, at that time, what were you even scrolling? Maybe Facebook? I don't even know.
No, I don't think it was on there yet.
But something, and I just remember being like, holy crap. And never in a million years would have imagined that we'd be like this distracted now, to where, like I said, I'm not like, not at a restaurant or anything. But at home sometimes, just
Sure,
like
absolutely.
finding yourself totally distracted and
for
scrolling.
sure.
So, but it's all pretty damn new. So
It's weird. It's a
real.
very strange thing. And I don't know. That's just, people got to really find a way to pay attention to what's important to them. Even more now than ever, I think, is what actually does matter to you, and do that and pay attention to it. And I'm not here to preach. I'm just saying, like, I think everyone's a little bit more happy when they figure that out and they do it, So,
And if you are thinking on the original question,
oh, sure. Yeah.
that without question, you would take the money, obviously not like for the next day to be gone, or to actually, if you're thinking, I would give up my favorite things in a heartbeat, maybe you don't have anything you're really that passionate about. And that would be something to reflect on and be like, maybe you need to, for lack of better terms, get out more and explore, because like, I think everyone could find some type of a process that they could fall in love with. Or if you're like, I would take years off my life for it, for the money, maybe you need some better relationships, or, you know what I mean? Like, cause
I don't know, man.
because it's just, I'm thinking of like, again, not trying to project my, thinking on that, but sharing my thinking, not projecting my thinking as like, this is what you should be thinking, but like the way I think about it is like, I don't know what's going to happen, with Finley, what her life will look like, but I know that I wouldn't want to give up a year or
Sure.
any time of health, for some money, because like, think of it the same way. Like, would you miss would I miss every event that Finley has to get $10 million, but I could just gift her the $10 million. Like, I think she would have a lot of resentment, and that $10 million wouldn't go very far. So I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could twist that question. That,
I mean,
so
I remember, this is a book that no one reads, but I read the Gulag Archipelago probably, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, something like that. And there's a point in which Alexander Solzhenitsyn he's in a Soviet Gulag, and he's talking about how
these are like prison camps, right? For
prison
context,
camps. Yeah, for Soviet dissidents. So like he was an officer in the Red Army during World War II, and he sent a friend a letter that was like, in it had a minor criticism, I think, of Stalin, and he got arrested and put in the Gulag system for 8 years for that. And so
they open the mail and read it.
Yeah, they censored everything. I mean, to be fair, that happened to U.S. troops too, but not like you could be critical of a something and not like go to jail for it, but like they would censor anything that would give evidence about troop movement or something like that. So for sure. But in the book, he talked about how on the outside people would say how they love life and and just define it very narrowly. But like, if you love life, you have to love all of life. Like that's the logical extrapolation, right? Like if you love life, like you love each part of it. And if that's what you're saying, then you have to love gulag life too. And you have to find a way to love it. And it's like, is it a terrible experience that people shouldn't have to have? Like, yeah, but like if you're having that experience, then even getting through that is like more valuable than not having an experience. And I think House made that, the show House, in one of the episodes, he said something like any experience is better than no experience. And so I just don't think that trading that because you don't know what's on the other side of the experience. Like, I'm not saying that like you should be happy to be tortured or put in prison or something like that. But like, I don't know, look at all of the people that have come out of those situations. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Jesus, no.
Viktor Frankl.
Why is my
not
brain...
Gulag, but Viktor Frankl.
It was concentration camp. Why is my brain going dead today? From South Africa. He like during
he
the
was
apartheid.
jailed.
Yeah.
And
he went in like an angry, violent man and came out incredibly peaceful.
Oh my gosh!
I can't think of his name. I don't know what's wrong with me right now.
The Dalai Lama? No.
What?
We're gonna go now.
Oh, goodness.
I know.
It's
God is gonna bother me.
What is his name? I don't know why. I'm not totally back to my faculties from being sick. I know that because I'm not super sharp right now.
Well, similar but different. It's like even guys with selection I've talked to, it's like you're volunteering to be there, right? And for the group that we work with, like I've said, in the moments that absolutely suck, do any of you stop and go, hang on, I wanted this so bad. I trained for months, probably years to get here to this moment because I have to get through this moment to get to where I ultimately want to be. And to take that a step further, like when it's really bad, be like, at least I'm not at work. like, you know what I mean? Like it might suck, but like I'm not at work. And if this all goes to plan, I don't ever have to go back to that work. Sure. I get to be on the other side of this.
Well, that's why Craig and John in their book always talk about having an ikigai as an operator.
Yeah.
Like figuring out what is your deep purpose for why you're doing this, because you're going to get to these moments where it's going to be super easy to quit, you know? So
that was, we were talking this week with some of the guys, and they were saying, one of them was saying in their interview, they were asked, like part way through, if we don't pick you up this time, will you come back for another selection? And I was dying laughing. I was like, what are you going to do? Sit there and be like, I'm going to be totally honest with you. No.
Like, you get me this shot. That's it.
Like, if you guys want me, you need to take me this time. But it's such like
that'd be hilarious.
I'd be very interested in like what the discussions are like behind the way that different people answer that question and watching body language. Because some people are probably thinking like, shit, you're not taking me, are you? Like,
I feel like that question would make me laugh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
ask me in another, I don't know. Yeah. But I just thought it was a hilarious question. And to sit there and be like, because then we were like, well, what did you say? And I don't know if all the guys were asked that, but it was like, well, what did you say? He was like, I said, of course I'd come back. He's like, I don't know if I would have.
Like that felt like the right card to play. Yeah,
but you choose to be here.
Yeah. I don't know. Are we talking about anything else?
It's
3:30. We got time.
Nope. No, I don't know. I literally...
You got more questions for me? I'm an open book.
I had that question for you. We're going to see where it went. How's Idaho?
I'm an open book.
You were sick.
I was sick.
You think I got you sick? But you avoided me like
no,
the plague.
I don't think it was you because I stayed away from you.
Yeah.
I consciously stayed away from you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it might have been Peter.
Dude, everybody has it.
It could have been somebody else. I was also around Brett's dad. Brett's dad was sick.
Yeah.
Could have been him. But it was funny because we're driving down. We drove from Washington to Idaho.
Yep.
And
Oh, so that's why when I emailed back Casey and was like, I honestly have no idea where Todd is because every time he tells me, I forget, and I always think he's in Utah. And then you emailed back and you were like, I'm in Oregon. It's because you were driving through.
yeah.
Okay, because I was like, what? I know he never said Oregon.
Yeah.
All right.
So I started to feel a tickle in my throat, and I was like, oh, that's nothing. It's November, air's dry.
That's how it starts.
And then we go the first day, we get going and we get parked, we're glassing, and I look up on the top of this mountain and I see elk. And I was like, Peter, elk. Let's go. Because it looked like they were going to funnel down through this drainage and we could get in front of them, But what I didn't realize is they were actually going parallel. They were going across the ridge and into this timber. And so we took off. And I was like, I was in good shape. Like I knew, like I've been training, and we went, and I was like, oh no, this isn't going well. And I thought it was altitude. And then I thought about it. I was like, I was just this high 3 weeks ago in Montana. Like, there's no way it's altitude. Yeah. And then I kept trying to convince myself it was altitude. And Peter's like, I think you're getting sick, man. I was like, no, I don't think it's that. Like, I think I'm fine. Like, it's just the altitude. I just need a couple of days. And so the second day, we go back to that same spot, and we hike to the top of the mountain. Well, we forgot our gaiters, like that go around the bottom of your pants and on your shoes.
Keep like dirt and rubble from getting in your shoes.
Well, so to keep your pants dry. And so our pants got wet, and it was cold out. And so we both kind of got cold, and we ended up like hunting through this timber and getting to the top of the mountain. We decided we were going to sit up there, kind of be in a spot where we could ambush elk if they came that way, but also we could see. And we're sitting down. I'm like, I can't sit down. Like, I'm cold. And then I stand up and I'm like, oh, I can't get warm. This is bad. And then I started to get a chill, and I was like, oh no. And Peter had earlier been like, hey, he saw me stand up. He's like, you cold? Do you want to build a fire? I was like, I think I'm okay. I don't think we need to. And then I was like, hey, I think we need to build that fire. And so we built a fire, got my pants dry, and I was like warm during that. And then as soon as we put the fire out, chill again. And so like I was like, every time I would move, I would get a chill.
Like shivering so hard you feel like you're going to throw up.
Yeah, like I would every time I moved, I would get a chill. Every time I walked. And so we start hunting our way down the mountain, and there's like 10 minutes left in shooting light. And he was like, hey, do you want to sit over here? I was like, no, I'm fucked up. And I was like, we gotta go. Like, I gotta go down the mountain. And I was like concerned. I was like, this is gonna be bad for the rest of the trip. So it ended up being like, I had like, my throat was so sore that I had to suck on halls all the time, or I couldn't hike. Like, it hurt to breathe. And then I was just, I took a bunch of Tylenol the one day, and that helped a ton. But like, I couldn't like move fast. Like, there were times like when the Tylenol I could go, but like we had a 5-mile hike out the last day we hunted, and like Peter could just cruise, because he was sick, but he took antibiotics and then he was fine, and I was literally like, I had a hard time maintaining 1 mile per hour. Like, I was just shot. I was exhausted. And so it was tough. It was really tough, but it was just, I don't know, like, that after that second day, I was afraid I was going to spend the trip in the hotel room. But the next day, I just stayed in the truck for the morning and I was like, I'm going to hunt, And so I'm glad I did. We got really close to elk. We just didn't get close enough to get a shot. And because we were hunting with muzzle loaders and we had to be within inside 100 yards. But like, it was gorgeous there. There were wild horses everywhere. It's like, awesome. There's this one moment, and it was the night that we got close to the elk. Like, this is a super wide open country, so it was tough to stalk. And like, the only thing we had to stalk was this willow bottom. So it's this big wide open basin, and it like kind of goes up to the north end, up to the south end, up to the west end, and like it funnels down into this lower basin. And then in there are different like in the drainages, in the like coulees, there are willows. And so like there's these willow bottoms that was the only way we had to stalk. And so we stalked up this willow bottom and got into 270 yards, and we just ran out of daylight. And so if we'd had more daylight, that'd have fed right into us, and we'd been fine. But we would keep checking them with our binoculars to kind of see where they were. and the sun was setting behind them. The sun was, they were to the west of us, and we expected to see bulls, but not like really nice ones. And there were two just beautiful bulls in there. And at one point, this big 6x6 bull, so 6 means 6 on one side, 6 on the other, lays his head back and bugles. And like I'm looking through my binoculars as it happens. The sun's setting right behind him, and I was like, all right, that was worth the price of admission. That's all I needed.
I mean, if you look at Todd's Instagram, you can get a visual on what he's describing. It looks awesome.
We were surrounded by like 10 to 12,000 foot peaks.
Yeah,
you know, we were up at 8, sometimes close to 9,000 feet most of the time, like hunting. But it was just like those peaks, the high peaks. It felt like we were in them.
Did you post the one? I know you posted some, but I'm forgetting what you texted me and what you posted. Did you post the ones with the horses, right?
Yeah. With like the black and white one with the.
Yeah, go look at those.
Yeah, it was an incredible place. I'm not gonna say exactly where we were because I don't want to blow it up, but like because there's several places in Idaho with wild horses, and big mountains. So I'm not gonna say where we were, but it was just incredible.
I'll just look at the geotag on your photos and then be able to. I'm kidding.
I think I took it off of them.
I don't know if you. Yeah. I don't know if you can do that once they're posted on Instagram.
I took the information off of them, I think, anyway. So I don't know if it would come from. I think that only come from your phone anyway, wouldn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't. There's your regular camera wouldn't track that. I don't think.
But that was the thing that surprised the hell out of me was that was the ZV1. That picture.
Yeah.
And because we were walking, we went up to this high knob to glass that basin and found the elk, and we were hiking back out to get around them. And we're walking out and we're hustling, right? And we're like, we need to get over there. And I saw those horses and I was like, Peter, I'm sorry, we got to stop. And it was just like framed perfectly.
It's perfect. Yeah.
And it was just like, my God, it was beautiful. It was just one of those, like there were a couple moments like, this is going to sound so, I think people will get it, but most people wouldn't hear me talk like this, I don't think. But there were just a couple moments on that trip where I was like, oh, God's here, you know? And like seeing the horses like that and like watching that bull bugle like that, it was just like, man, it was just, you know, that was it. That's all I needed.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
so
real cool.
It was awesome. It was great. I wish I would have been well the whole time, but I felt the last day we hunted, we were stalking up that same willow bottom. I felt like I was going to puke the whole time. And then like we sat down to drink water and I fell asleep. And like woke up again, and I was like, "Oh shit, okay." And Peter's like, "Do you want to stay here?" I was like, "No, I'm gonna go."
I can't imagine. I don't know, obviously, if you felt the same way that I felt, but like, I was supposed to have my race that same weekend, right? So I was on the couch. I was done. So if you felt the way that I felt, I can't imagine running through mountains because I had like a 24/7 headache. Felt like my head was blowing up from the inside.
I had a migraine. I was fighting a migraine the whole time.
Yeah.
That was like the first tell, other than the chill, that like I was actually sick. I was like, oh no, because I just thought it was altitude. I thought it just was like I'm struggling with the altitude.
It's not
because I've never had a hard. But then I was like, you've been at like 8,000-9,000 feet so many times, and you've never had a problem.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you're not. It's not altitude. You're sick.
I mean, not saying I assumed you were gonna get sick, but I forget what you said when you hit me up and you said something about like your throat or whatever, and I'm like, dude.
Yeah, dude, it sucked.
So.
It like I had to put my neck buff, like my neck gaiter, up over my mouth and suck on a haul to be able to hike, or it hurt too bad.
I mean I did my final peak week, and then I was supposed to have a 2-week deload, and so I don't think we recorded since then. Like no, I don't think so. I finished off that peak week perfectly, but Friday I woke up.
That was the next day you got sick.
Same experience as you. I woke up Friday with a little tickle in my throat, and I was like, I'm fine, and fatigued. I was like, I'm fine. Like, it's just the fatigue of like this peak week. And then I went and ran 16 miles with 4,500 feet of gain, and whatever descent, probably close to the same, in 3.5 hours on Friday, and then turned around Saturday morning and ran 17 miles on the WNOD. And by Saturday afternoon, there was no more like, this is probably just fatigue. It was like,
I'm a mess.
I was, but then I still was kind of like, I think I'm just a little cold, like not cold, like chills cold. Like I'm getting a little cold. And, I ordered, you know, when you're not feeling the best and you're like craving, like, I don't know, at least I do, like soup, like broth, whatever. Yeah, so I ordered like pho, chilled on the couch.
Yeah.
And, the rest of that day was all right. And the next day we got up. I think we went about our regular. Went to church. Went to Finley's swim lesson. I think we went. It was either that was the day we went to Silver Diner or Famous Toaster. Either one, amazing options for brunch.
I like Silver Diner a lot.
But then we were running around doing different stuff, and we were at Finley saw a bounce house. And if you see a bounce house with a 6-year-old, you have to go. And it was at one of those like nurseries, like plants and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And we were there, and Jess is walking around looking at plants, and Finley's bouncing this bounce house. And I like within a span of like 10 minutes, I went from like
okay to not okay.
I'm like, all right, I don't feel the best to like, I said to Jess, like, hey, can I have the keys? I'm going to go lay down in the car. And then I came in here Monday to try and be like, I'm probably all right. And I felt like I was in a dream. I was interacting with people, and it was like where your ears almost feel like you're underwater.
Yeah.
And then, so from late Monday morning when I was like, nope, I'm not going to be around anyone. I don't want to get anyone sick. Like I can't even function. So from late Monday morning and for the next through Sunday, I was on the couch. So first full week of my deload. And then on Friday, I finally got antibiotics. Even though I went to the doctors originally, they were like, no, like negative for everything. Negative for COVID, negative for strep. Like we think you just have a sinus infection. You should be better in 2 days. If you're not, let us know. So eventually the end of the week, they gave me antibiotics and a steroid pack. And that kind of brought me back to life. So I was like, oh, all right, Monday morning, like I still wasn't sure. I was like, maybe I'm going to do the race. Maybe like it's not ideal, but 1 week on the couch, like maybe that isn't the end of the world. I was still congested, but I was like, let's just go see. And I went and tried to run easy 30 minutes Monday morning. And like my heart rate just went woof, like through the roof. And what should have been an easy run to be at the heart rates I would have been at was like a walk. Yeah. And I'm like, and I still was kind of in denial. Like, well, maybe like just first day back. And then I forget what day it was. I wound up hitting up the Airbnb owner. Well, I looked at like the contract on like the cancellation, and it was like when I looked, I needed to make a call like that day by 3 p.m. or whatever. And so I wound up canceling the Airbnb, but still being like, I might book it later this week. And then I was done. So what we're now 4 weeks. That was November 4th. So it's now November. The race was supposed to be November 4th. It's now November 16th. And I still, whatever it was, and this is why I think it was COVID, even though I had negative tests, like still weird heart rate stuff from training. Like it's all right. Like I have days that are better, but I'm not recovering like I normally would from my training right now. So I don't know, but
I felt the Tylenol wear off. Like when we were so our hike in the morning to hunt that basin wasn't crazy. Like it was like 1.7 miles with like 800 or 900 feet of elevation gain. So it's like it went up at a good clip, but it wasn't crazy.
It's not drastic.
Oh, it almost murdered me. Like every time it almost murdered me. And we like the last day we hiked in, I was like, okay, I'm doing all right. I think I'll be okay. Cause I woke up and I was like, I'm wrecked. Cause the day before we covered like 10 miles and as we stocked up that willow bottom. And so we planned to get in there early the next day. But I wake up when my alarm goes off and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. But like I got myself together and took Tylenol, and I felt when I got to the top of that hill, like the Tylenol just wore off and it was just gone. I was like, oh, this is going to be a long day.
What headache, cold?
Yeah,
like what?
Just headache, just like it
came roaring
shot.
Back. Yeah.
Just shot, like sick in my stomach, like had no energy. We went to like walk around on this ridge to glass the elk. The elk were still probably about 1.5 miles away, and we still had to get to them. And so we sat down to glass and figure out what we'd do. And I was like, I'm going to roll over and go to sleep for a little bit, man. And so I rolled over and fell asleep for like 20 minutes. And he's like, we got to go. And I was like, all right. And so we went, and it was just like, I just had no gas. And at one point, the elk went over this crest, and Peter's like, I think we should go. I was like, yeah, man, let's go. And Peter goes, and I'm like trudging, like, and like I was like, well, I can't. This is as fast as I can go. This is it. And so I got to the timber at the top of the ridge, and like Peter came back over the hill, and he was like, they're circling back around. I was like, oh, so can we sit right here? He's like, no, we got to go down there. I was like, fuck. And so, but we would have got in front of them. They were going to come, they were coming back downhill. It looked like to go to water because all of those willows were there because there were springs, right? And they were coming back down. We saw them and we were going to try to get down and get around them. And some dingleberry came in from another part of the drainer and just shot. And like, and when elk leave, they leave. Like they're gone, like 15 miles away and before you can even blink. So, but that sucked. But it was, yeah. And then hiking back out, the 5 miles back out, I was like, it was tough. Like it was like, especially, I mean, you know how much I've trained over the course of the past, however long, but even this year and like all the running and rucking and stuff that I've done, I was like, it shouldn't have been hard. And it was like, I had to work just to get it back out to the truck. Yeah. It was bad, man.
That sucks. But you still got to go.
I still went. I went. Like I said, there's a lot of great experiences that I wouldn't have otherwise had. The drive from Oregon, from Washington through Oregon over to Idaho was interesting. It was beautiful. I mean, I got to spend time with Peter and his family. And like I said, I had those few moments with the one horse, like the pictures, you see like the gray one that's like looking at me. Yep. He was coming up to the truck. And
people feed them?
I don't know. But he got curious. Like we spooked him once. Like I was trying to get him to look for a picture. So I whistled at him. He's like, I don't like that. And he started walking away fast. And then he was like, well, wait a minute. And then he turned around and he started coming. Like when I took those pictures, he was like 5 yards from the truck. That's awesome. And I was like, I don't have anything for you, buddy. And then I think I moved just a little too suddenly and he didn't like it and he took off. So, yeah.
They used to be at the Outer Banks. And I remember
gone now?
Well, no, let me take that back. They're still up on the 4x4 beach, but I would imagine they can get through it, but it's like the same thing if you go to
like Assateague and Chincoteague and stuff.
Well, I was gonna say if you go to what in the world, Animal Kingdom at Disney, there's some things where like certain animals, like there's not a fence in one area, but they have like these grates down that the animals won't walk on.
Oh yeah, they're like cattle grates. Yeah.
And so I feel like in one sect, like there's an opening like where cars drive through. Like so the horses obviously aren't like completely contained, but I think they have a fence that goes the whole entire way across that keeps them from coming into Corolla and Duck and everything. Whereas they used to be all the way down to, well, I think all over, but like where Kitty Hawk and all the like way down the Outer Banks. But now they're just contained up to like the 4x4 beach side.
See, I think in a lot of places, like,
well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, but there, like you saying about the one coming over to you. So when we were, I don't know how old I was, but we used to go every year to the Outer Banks. And I remember my dad was using the grill out back, and the horses came, and you have to run up. Like they're aggressive.
Yeah,
they're aggressive. Like I don't know what, like if they're coming up and they're just gonna like randomly kick you or what, but like then they'd be like everyone inside. Like so, I don't know.
These horses weren't like that. They were spooky. Like we walked the one morning when it was still kind of dark. We walked 20 yards from them, and they just looked at us.
And that's the way it is now. Like if you go to the 4x4 beach, they're not that easy to find. Like people, I mean, there's like tour little buggy things to take, and I think that they have based on being out there all the time, they have an idea of where they are at different times. But we'll go every year usually and drive down the 4x4 beach and go into the neighborhoods and like try and see if we can find them. And I would say, I don't know if I want to say most years, but probably 50% of the years, like we don't find them. It's not like we're going every day, but on the day we go, we don't find them.
Yeah.
But when you do, sometimes they're like on the beach right near the water and people are not super close. We're probably getting within like 40 yards.
It's probably close.
But it's not like they're
still a wild animal.
It's not like they're coming up to you. You know what I mean? They're not going to like chase you down. So I don't know what it was back in the day within the backyard, but
they're I know in Idaho, I don't think it's as big of an issue because the population isn't as big. Like where we were, we saw them every day.
Yeah.
But there wasn't like a huge population. I know some places in the Southwest, it's like there's too many.
Yeah.
But there's some kind of legislation in place that you can't call them. You know, so.
What's the problem with too many though?
Well, they outcompete other animals for food, and they're also on like BLM land and stuff. And so like BLM land, you get like cattle grazing leases and stuff like that. And so they eat the same shit. And so ranchers can't bring their cows out there and stuff like that. So I guess
are they native or were they at one point like domesticated and these are like off not siblings, but you know what I'm trying to say, like descendants of.
So I mean, horses did evolve here during the Pleistocene, and then they were gone, and then Europeans brought them back.
Yeah.
And so since there's been Europeans here, there's been horses. And so they're not, I know they're not.
So they are
native.
lineage of ones that were brought over from
Yes.
Europe.
Yeah, they're not native to, I mean, the horses that were native to this continent are long gone. So, yeah. Now you know that. There's a great book called American Serengeti by Dan Flores, I think he is.
Okay.
It's really good. It talks about all that kind of stuff. There used to be like a giant sloth.
This is where you get these fun facts from.
You know the pronghorns? There used to be like 5 different species of pronghorns. I just posted a picture of them the other day.
Oh, yeah.
There used to be like 5 species.
They're
they're the last ones left.
maybe I'm not sure. Is a pronghorn more like a deer or like a sheep? They're like a deer, right?
They call them like an antelope, but they're not
Yeah,
an antelope.
yeah.
But they're actually, they look like a goat.
Yeah.
They call them speed goats, but I think legitimately their closest living relative is a giraffe. So, but there used to be like 5 species of those. There was an American lion. There was the American short-faced bear. There was a gigantic, like a huge bison. All of this stuff. Elk came here during the Pleistocene, but elk aren't from here. They're from like the Eurasian steppes. So they came over. I think that's where moose came. Moose came from that direction too. So, yeah. I know that.
Great facts.
You can write that down. You can read the book. It's a good book. It's fun.
Oh,
We could probably be done.
I think we are.
Yeah.
I think we are. We're back from a long layoff between me being sick, you being away. I think you were away right before that, so it like all kind of overlapped. So I don't think we're doing one of these next week with Thanksgiving, but after that we should be.
I'll be gone again.
We should be
We
off.
might want
again.
to sneak one in early next week.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe you'll see us, maybe you won't. But it's a mystery. Stay tuned.
Bye.